Welcome everyone today. My name is Mr. O, and today I am going over the Section 4 SAT Practice Exam 1, specifically problems numbers 1 through 3. Be aware that we do have, previously, we covered the whole Section 3 math portion, but today we are going over the Section 4 math. This portion is specifically calculator allowed, and so sometimes I am going to be using the calculator dependent on the type of question that exists. But as usual, what I do is that I go through the problem real quick in the beginning, and then afterwards, I break it down how to do the problem. And so we're going to get started. Problem number 1. So John runs, uses heart rate from which strictly increasing. Okay. So number 1 is B. So for this question, I don't need to do any computations. There's no problem solving, so I don't need another paper. But what I am going to do is explain how I was able to get to the answer. So right here, I specifically underlined that his heart rate has to be strictly increasing than strictly decreasing. The part is that if, for example, right here between 10 and 30, right here is what we call neither of those two. It's literally flatline. And so any possible answer that has like any of these flatline going on will for certain not be the answer. And so, for example, A states between 0 and 30. Between 0 and almost 10, it looks like it is increasing, but afterwards it flatlines. So I know A is not the answer. For C, between 50 and 65, if you look right here, it sort of looks like maybe potentially it might be the case, but the problem is that for this, we're not too sure. There's ambiguity right here where it's exactly 65. And so for me at least, I could see that there's also a little increase at 50 right here, which means that it's not just strictly doing this or that. It does change again and again. In D, it says between 70 and 90. There is a little flat line here too, and thus why for number 1, the answer is B. I'm going to continue on to number 2. So for number 2, it states this. If y equals to kx, y equals 24. Okay, so y equals 24. Okay. So number 2, the answer is C. And now I'm going to go ahead and explain to you how I was able to do number 2. So for number 2, I am just going to copy down the question itself. So y equals to kx, k is a constant, y equals 24, when x equals to 6, and what is the value of y when x equals to 5? And so when I'm doing this problem, I need to make sure I understand what they are talking about. And so right here, I noticed that I don't have the value k. They never gave me the value k. They gave me a set of values x and y right here. And so that's going to help me solve for k. And in the end, I'm going to be able to solve for y. And I'm going to show you now what I mean. So right here, I'm going to plug in x as 6. So x times 6 equals to y, which is 24. Be aware, that's the same thing as me flipping these two through commutative property to allow me get to this point. Afterwards, I am going to divide it by 6, and I find out, oh, k is 4. And so afterwards, I could plug this k as 4 into this equation. And so right here, it's going to now become y equals to 4x. But I'm not done yet, because the question asks me for what is y when x equals to 5. So I need to plug 5 into here to solve that out. So y equals to 4 times 5. So y equals to 20. And so if we look right here, the answer for number 2 is going to be C for 20. And that concludes how I solved for number 2. Okay, and so now I'm going to continue on to the next question. So for number 3, let's see. Okay, in the figure above, they are parallel. Okay, and measurement of 1 is 35 degrees. What's the measure of 2? Well, okay. Okay, so for number 3, the answer is D. And now I'm going to explain to you how I was able to get to this answer so quickly. So for number 3, I'm just going to copy down sort of what it states right here, and I'm just going to copy onto this paper. So I'm going to do that, okay, that, okay, L, M, S, T, this is 2, this is 1. So angles 1 is 35 degrees. Okay. So now I could cover this up. So the question, duly note that I only pull out the key information I need. I don't really need to read the instructions again and again. It's a bit of a waste of time. But they tell me that these two are parallel, these two are parallel. I have 35. What's the angle for 2? And so before I start anything else, this is a parallelism question. So number 3, I'm going to just write number 3 right here, and it's going to be a parallelism question. So it involves a lot of these different properties. So the ones that I'm going to mention is going to be vertical angles. And what vertical angles means is that it lets me know that based on parallel lines, if there's an angle like 1 here, this is also going to be the same value. So this is going to be 35, this is going to be 35. And that's because they're parallel, and that means that these angles have to be equal to each other. Another rule right afterwards, what I need to do is that I need to find out where this eventually goes. And there's another rule that lets me know that this is going to be equal to this, because because of, well, not alternate interior angles, but actually it's corresponding angles. Corresponding angles. And so for this part right here, I know that this is going to be 1, and I know this is also going to be 1 because of corresponding angles. Because if this angle is 35, this will also be 35, because we know that they are parallel. In the end, the last thing I do know is that the relationship between these two have to be supplementary, because every line, whenever you have an angle like 1 and 2 like this total angle right here has to add up to 180 degrees. And so that means that these things, and I'm going to put little dashes lines, this needs to be supplementary. And so that means that because I know that angle 1 is 35 degrees, I need to find out what this angle is by doing 180 minus 35. And if I do the math, and you could actually do this on a calculator if you want to make sure you don't make any mistakes. This angle 2, so angle 2 is going to end up, measurement of angle 2 is going to equal to 145 degrees. And that answer is D on the sheet. So for this one, is going to be D. And that concludes the final answer for this video for today. Please do follow us on YouTube. We're going to continue to make these type of videos, and make sure to follow us on Facebook. Thank you for watching.